Okay, so in this tutorial, we're going to make some slight color adjustments, all right? And say that maybe that's when we painted this and we put it down and it's like, it doesn't look as great as we'd like. We can make some adjustments. The great thing about global color is if I click on any of these color pots, I can do that live on the fly and change them after they're done. So if I want to say change the hue or saturation of this line work and make it a little darker or deepen the value. By the way, single wheel mode doesn't get you very far. Always use multiple wheel mode. That's helpful. And the eyedropper is also good if, say, someone made color reference on the side from a JPEG or anything from the internet. You can use the color dropper to do that. Anyway, next, let's just stick with the plan, which is hair or skin. Anything that I want to do that changes things, I can change it here on the fly and say, no, I didn't want him to be, I want him to be kind of blondie, or let's just make his hair brown. And so to say the art director says, I want to make his hair kind of on the brownish side. Let's do it that way and not purple. Let's decrease the saturation a bit. And let's find something kind of in the brown range here. Decrease the saturation of it, increase the value, saturation, make it a little like this. Yeah, let's make it a little darker. Yeah, okay, so something like that. And then say, oh, all right, I want the hair, the line work to be the same, except darker. So I say copy. I can say paste color values, right? Then it could be the same. What if I didn't want any lines, right? What if I didn't want any lines and I wanted the lines to be the same color as the fills? Better yet, any more fancier than this, I could say, what if I wanted these lines? I'll select these lines and make sure I shift select, so I'm only selecting these lines. What if I wanted my lines under the tool properties to have texture to them? Oh wow, look at that. So now I have some like hairiness or textured line to it. Isn't that a beautiful thing? And that's some way of how Tangled was done. Okay, so if you make the lines with the texture the same color as your fill, you can get some really great results. Let me just fix this here because we had that little line break in there. I'll say paint, paint unpainted, color, say hair. All right, now here. If I wanted to, I can go back in, I can make it even just a little darker and change the value. So this is global color, guys, and this is what makes everything super powerful, is that with global color, just after it's done, even after it's animated, you can change it after the fact. You can change it over the course of many scenes. Okay? Go ahead and try and do that in a Flash production, and you'll hate your life because it doesn't work. You can't do this. Also, in addition to this, you can also make night palettes and day palettes. So if I'm going to right click in this, I can say clone palette. Why not duplicate palette? Well, duplicate palette is a good palette where you want to apply the same palette to a different character. For example, what if I have like 3 different sharks or 3 different eels, but I've already made they all have the same kind of properties. They all have fins, they all have the same eyes. I would apply a duplicate palette, right? So I wouldn't have to fill this out again to a different character. But in this case, when I'm making a night palette or a day palette, I'm going to clone the palette. And this time I'm going to call this fisherman. I'm going to say fisherman, we'll say night. We'll give him a night palette, and I do night palette and say element palette list. Let's just give it a seeing palette list and say, okay, don't worry about the palette list right now. Okay, that's a real technical thing here. We'll see, right click on the tint panel. And when we get on the tint panel, we can select all of these colors that we want to tint, and we can make it with a preview. Make sure that preview is checked. And we can adjust the hue. We're going to boost the amount all the way up to 100. And we can change the hue of this character. Let me just move this up to the top. Say up. And we can adjust the hue of the character to a different value. So we can deepen the saturation, darken him down, add a little blue to it, change the hue a little bit. We can even add the amount. But right now I've had this set to offset. You can also blend, mixer, whatever. There's a lot of different beautiful properties that you can do with this. So there's a lot of really cool, powerful tools. And if you want not happy with this, you can always hit reset and try again. So you can see the amount is not that severe. I can change the saturation, click preview. Its saturation, value, darken its value. Oh, you got to select colors. You got to select the colors before you get anything out of it. So you got to make sure that the colors you want are selected. Now he looks sick. There we go. Add a little bit of blue to it. All right, so then we have like a dark nighttime palette and say apply. Okay, and so then it's close. So now I have a daytime palette, which I can move down. There's the daytime palette right here, Fisherman, and then I'm going to reorder it and say the nighttime palette. Right, you can notice that the display takes precedent of what order it's in on the scene palette list. All right, so I'm going to boost that right up. Okay, so that's a little bit about global color and its power and its ability and its paint effects. It's a fantastic thing, and by the way, color is a big major part of what makes rigging so powerful, which I will explain in the next tutorial.